So as you're talking about engaging the mystery in that positive way versus the negative way, when you put it in those words, right? It now makes me put it through my system and think about things in that way. There's a part of me that believes like, have I been like I have definitely been engaging the mystery, but perhaps I've been engaging it more in the negative way. I've been engaging it in the way which says like, if we don't understand this at the base level, I'm not sure if you're familiar with one of Tolstoy's books. I'm gonna forget the name of it now, but it's a book where he's kind of grappling with this, where he says like, if I don't know why I'm here, what humans are, what the meaning of life is, then life's impossible. Like, how could I make any decision? Because I don't have any basis to say this is right, this is wrong, or any of it. And I find myself in that negative way, feeling like, yeah, exactly. Like, how can I engage the mystery positively with that? And what I think your response to it is, I think, and this is kind of the provocative point, is like, you're right, you won't understand the mystery. So dance with it in a way in which you kind of just selfishly or hedonistically say you have some sense of just what viscerally feels good to you. So dance with the mystery in a way that taps into that and allows that goodness to feel better, which isn't a bad thing. But there's this perception of like, ooh, that feels like it's hedonistic, or whatever word you want to use.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that it is, but what's that do for you?
Yeah. So great question again, bro. I would actually turn the intuition on its head a little bit.
Okay.
So you've never been in control. In my opinion, these are all opinions. You've never been in control, and I've never been in control, and nobody's ever been in control. If we can agree that our sense of who we are is, in a sense, molded onto us by the energies of the universe, whether that be in a very physical sense, like you're born to your parents, or maybe a more metaphysical sense, like you were subjected to these philosophy books, but maybe not these. And so it all of that kind of like warps and molds who we believe ourselves to be. And if we can agree that we aren't in control of those certain energies that mold us into who we are, then we can perhaps also agree, if it's congruent, that we aren't in control, period. And we never have been. Yeah, no, it definitely feels like we are. Like we make decisions and we navigate and all that. And I'm not trying to take away from the felt significance of that. And I'm not even saying like throw your hands up in the air, but I think recognizing the extent to which you are a domino line of sorts can liberate you from this idea that the thinking mind has ever been the thing that comes up with the decisions and comes up with the understanding. Like, if we watch thoughts, if we watch our mind, things arise and they fade, right? So it's like, you might have a creative explanation for something arise and then it fades, or like you see some phenomena like a cloud and then, you have what you know about clouds arise and then it fades. And you're not doing that. Or in my opinion, we're not the ones that are doing that. There is a deeper intelligence. And we can observe it even in the context of this conversation. Like it's not like I thought of an answer, like all of these words that I've been saying ever since the end of your question. It's more that those words are flowing through me. Yeah, exactly. And then you're the same. Like, if you are present with the conversation and it's enthralling enough and right now is good enough to be happy, right now is good enough to be present, which, in this case of a good conversation, it seems to be, then the intelligence that's using you as a conduit, so to speak, is not a cognitive intelligence the way that your question seems to imply it is. Like your question seems to imply there's this meta guy sitting at all the levers, making the decisions as to what words are said and how it's understood and, et cetera, et cetera. And so I would say that you're right. You're never going to understand, right? But the idea that that's going to stop you from intuitive and intellectual and beautiful movement throughout the world, you said life is impossible, I think is somewhat faulty. I think, we can observe within ourselves ways in which we navigate intelligently without cognitively approving it all the time. And I think when you lean into that intelligence more and more, which can be unnerving, especially for the more cognitive types, you find that it's much smarter than you are across so many metrics.
You're saying some things, Jake. So I love this. This is where I want to be in this conversation, because I think,
you've been asking
and I'll just say this candidly, I'm not saying this proudly, just let's explore this. I think as you say that, where I struggle is I don't want to surrender to something else, like something in that. And I don't know that I can say why. Maybe we figured out in this conversation, but that idea of saying like there is an intelligence out there beyond us. It's not me kind of working through it. There's a freedom and a liberation in that. I feel that as well, but there's also like a fear of like, but if I don't have that, then what the fuck am I? Like, what am I actually? Am I just here for the ride? Like, what does that mean for me and for us?
Yeah. So there's a kind of a fringe idea, and like, I don't know how like religious you want to get. I'm not really a religious person. I love a lot of the structure of Taoism and Buddhism, but I think that if you're going to use any religious template for your spirituality, you're necessarily going to be limited because it's such a personal thing. But oh, I'm sorry. So you just made that question. Oh, yeah, I don't have it. In terms of like being scared.
Yeah.
You've never had it, and I think that for me, because I was so much the same way. Up until about the point I was like 22 or 3, something like that. I learned with a fever because of this unarticulated but subconscious drive that, like, if I just understood everything, like eventually I'll be able to, navigate perfectly and always be in ease and zen. And, regardless of the fact that that is an impossible goal, I felt that. And so that deep inner drive of like, I gotta feed the cognitive mind because the cognitive mind will lead me to, wherever my objectives end up being, is a very understandable intuition to adopt. And if you have the mind that is capable of holding abstractions and playing with abstractions in a non-exhausting way, because a lot of people have a short fuse for that type of stuff, then it seems like an intelligent way forward. And I couldn't drop that. I took ayahuasca. I've taken ayahuasca a bunch of times, and I really highly recommend it if anybody feels the call. But for me, what it did is it reorganized all of this understanding into an undeniably spiritual metric, which in turn released me from the conviction or the constriction of like wanting to cognitively dominate my experience. And for me, it just helped show me that A, it's an impossible goal. B, the mystery is like, I wouldn't want to, because I love learning. And I wouldn't want to give that, like, if I know everything, I'm not going to learn anymore. And I guess, yeah, fundamentally, it showed me the beauty in seemingly negative things. Like if you don't get ignorance, you don't get learning, right? So embrace ignorance because you embrace learning. It's, you kind of look at it that way. And like, if you don't get pain, then your ability to provide empathy or to experience empathy is severely limited. You can only really extend empathy to the extent and to the depth to which you are willing to explore your own sets of pain. And there's a whole list of these that you could go through of a seemingly negative object that provides the stage or the platform, if you will, for a further sophisticated positive experience. And when you look at that phenomena under the whole umbrella of the mystery and how the mystery is constantly providing you, seemingly negative things that lead to deeper, sophisticated experiences that you perhaps, and I'll speak for me, I would have never had the creativity or intuition to go that way. And instead just watching how the mystery provides that for you again and again and again and again and again, which is again a form of embracing that you don't know what's going to make you happy, releases you from that cognitive constriction of being like, oh, I got to learn it all, because it just shows you, A, you've never been that in the first place. B, you wouldn't do a good job even if you did have that power. And C, the co-creative elements of the universe that are providing you the sets of experiences that you get to learn and grow from is doing a more creative job, a better job, and a more responsible job than I think anybody would ever imagine they could do for themselves.
No.
I mean, if you really look at that phenomenon.
So the cognitive piece of it, there's definitely a real piece of it, of the logical cognitive mind and trying to make sense of it. But if I push deeper than that, at least for myself, I don't think it's as much about like, I want to control or understand the world and I want to know all the answers. I think I can accept, I cannot know that. I don't control the world. I never controlled the world. I never even controlled myself in many ways. And I'll never know all these answers. What I think gets me caught up is the fear of that liberation and that freedom of accepting that is, let me see if I can put the words together to say this right. Like the accountability and response, like what I fear is hurting somebody else. And part of the reason to try and understand the world better, to try and understand what's the right value to have, to try and understand what am I meant to be doing here, what's good, what's bad, is I don't want to cause suffering on another human being that doesn't need to feel it. And there's always this fear, and that freedom, that liberation, that letting go to say, you know what, there's some other intelligence here that's really driving this. I'm just here for the ride. In some ways, it's like fucking awesome. Yeah, get me on that bus because then I don't have to worry about it. But then it's like, but what if that's just my ego or my laziness or whatever being like, well, now I don't have to worry anymore. Now I don't have to check myself. Now I don't have to worry. And maybe I cause unthinkable suffering or harm in the world because of it.